Greetings, family, and welcome to Refuge Depot, where we're talking about survival, disaster preparedness, and how to shelter in place, how to get you together a to-go bag just in case you have to evacuate your home, how you can begin to grow you a garden in your home, in your backyard, or if you're in an apartment, how to build a vertical garden. All of this is very necessary and needed knowledge because as we are looking at, you know, just the whole climate across the board, when we're looking at the weather, when we're looking at the politics, when we're looking at just the number of things, it's apparent that we definitely need to be prepared for anything because anything can break off at any time. And so, with that, I want to go ahead and introduce my co-host, and I'll start first with Mr. Sanford Whitlow. Come on board, brother. Greetings, brother. How are you doing today?
Outstanding. How you doing this evening, brother Steve?
Man, I'm doing so outstanding. And the reason why I'm doing so outstanding is because both of you brothers have stepped it up to your A game with y'all background. So I'm happy to see that. And let me go ahead and bring on brother Aaron Olinger. All right. Greetings, brothers.
How you doing
How are
today?
you? Good. I'm
Great.
doing well, doing well. And so, what we want to do today is we're going to touch on some current events. But what we want to do first is we know that there's this polar vortex that is sweeping through, and it has taken some lives. And so, this is a very serious situation. And we've done a few winter shows, but we definitely want to continue to recap on how steps that you can take to survive because believe it or not, each year, I don't believe that the winters are going to get any better. So let's go ahead and, Brother Aaron, if we could, we'll go ahead and start it off with yourself.
Okay. Now today I'm doing a show in my basement today where some of my preps are. And I've said this before, we want to get out in front of things.
Yeah.
And when something happens, you don't want to be reacting to it. You want to already have things in place. And when this polar vortex came through and the temperatures were so cold in different states, I learned that there were, there were people who died, literally
Mm.
froze to death in their own homes. And to me, I can't think of a more useless death than that. I mean, did they not have friends who they could have went over to their houses or relatives, or were they from out of town and there was nobody that could help them? Did they not have enough money to go to a motel, or was the $100 a night or more too much for their budget to be able to afford? I mean, for whatever reason, that they was putting in a position, or they could have been behind on paying their bills and got their heat turned off in their house during that polar vortex, or the snow and temperatures could have made the power lines come down, and there they was without power, or even their
Mhm.
furnace could have went out, and there again, there you are, not with the ability to be able to provide heat to be comfortable in your own home. And to die in such a manner, man, I can't think of a more useless death than to
Mm.
freeze to death in your own house because of lack of knowledge. And that's what it comes down to. So I want to address that today. Hope I can educate some people and save some lives so that this will never happen again. Because I don't want to hear on the news that people are dying in different states just because they didn't know any better. So let's start
Mm.
off first by discussing basic body temperature is 98.6 degrees. If your body temperature drops down to 95 or below and you don't get a prompt and immediate help, you're not going to survive. We're talking no more than a 3.6 degree difference. So maintaining that 98.6 is vital to you trying to survive. When you feel your body shivering, it's burning extra calories to try to generate heat. It's fighting to try to survive. So let's go from there. It, we're going to try to get out in front of this. Now, first thing we want to discuss is that whether you're surviving in your car or you're surviving in sheltering in your home in extreme cold, you want to layer up your clothing. We're talking 3 layers, okay? Your base layer is going to control temperature, and it's your basic insulation. Now, what I'm talking is common sense here, or I thought it was, but I'm not talking about the wrappers and the style and what's going to be fashionable. I'm talking something here that's going to keep you alive. That base layer, that first layer you put on, is to control your temperature. I could be a pair of long johns. Is that fashionable? Nope. Will people laugh at you? Yep, but I bet you'll be warm while they're suffering in their little hoodies and stupidity that they surround themselves with trying to be fashionable. Second layer,
Mhm.
that's your mid layer. That whisks moisture away from your body, okay? There are 3 materials that's going to wisp away moisture. It's going to be wool, nylon, and polyester. Now, some people say, well, I'm going to put on such thick clothing, I'm going to build up a good sweat. I'm going to be hot. You don't want that. When you start sweating, sooner or later, your body temperature will cool. It will get cold, and that water will turn to ice on your skin, and you'll get frostbite real quick. So you're not looking to try to build up all this sweat. Then your outer layer is going to be your insulation from the elements, the wind and things. You want a good sized coat. You want insulated gloves. And there's something that I like personally. And this is like a giant 1-piece snowsuit. Nylon material on the outside, quilted, insulated. You're going to stay warm. I mean, you can put this on and stay warm at 25 below zero weather, but it's all 1 piece. Some people call them snowmobile suits. Are they fashionable? No. But we're talking something here, and it's called survival. We're not going to worry about fashion. We want to survive in the event we get put into the cold. Now, you have 2 choices at this point. Are you going to survive in your home, or are you going to survive in your car? So I'm going to entertain both of those separately. In surviving in your home, you're going to set up a micro environment in your home. Now, when I told one of my lady friends about it, she had me explain what that was. And after I explained it to her, she called it setting up a warm room. So let's go with that. Instead of microenvironment, let's just use the term warm room. Now, you can take a couch, and you could turn a couch back to back with a love seat, spread them apart, double drape blankets on top to make like a little fort underneath. And you can get up under there, and you have an area that's going to hold in heat. You can drape down the stuff on the 2 ends, and you can get inside of that, and it's going to hold a certain amount of heat without you having to do anything. Now, if you don't want to do that, and you got the money to buy a tent, you can set up a tent right there in your living room. You're going to pick one room, and you're going to set that tent up. You're going to throw blankets over top of that tent again to hold the heat in. And that's in the event you don't have any other source of heat. Now, in setting up that warm room, the 2 things that you want to get now is Gorilla Tape or duct tape, and Husky plastic sheeting. This sheeting here runs you $25. You get it at Walmart in the paint department. It's plastic drop cloths, but it's 4 mil thick. You can hang it down from a doorway, have 2 sheets of it hanging down to where you can push one open and come in and out the room. You also put it over your windows and anywhere that you think you could feel a draft or something coming in. And that plastic sheeting will hold the temperatures in that room that you're in. Then the next thing that you want to have handy already is these two items, and they're for safety. A CO2 detector. Now, they do make some smoke detectors that are combination CO2 detectors, battery operated. Make sure you change your batteries. And then, in case a fire breaks out of you because you're trying to stay warm, you want to have a fire extinguisher handy to put out that fire. Because in said event, you will be the first responder. And you can easily put out a small fire before it turns into something major. Now, what I would like to recommend to people, if you're going to set up the room and not a fort or a tent, once you put your plastic sheeting up, you're going to get out your heater. I'm going to show you a heater that I strongly recommend. This is your Big Buddy heater right here. Now, they make 3 different sizes. This is the biggest one. What I like about it and the safety features it has a, let's see, a low oxygen system on it. So if CO2 starts to build up in the room where you're at, it will automatically cut off. If while you're running it and it tips over, it has a safety feature in it that it will automatically cut off. So it would be hard to cause that thing to create a fire. But let's say, again, in the event that it does catch fire, that's what you had the fire extinguisher for. Now, if the oxygen starts to get low in the room and the sensor's not working on the heater, your CO2 detector will pick that up and will sound and alert you to the problem. Now, the Big Buddy heater runs off of 2 of the Coleman propane 1-pound fuel canisters. It has 3 temperature settings, 4,000 for low, 9,000 for medium, and 18,000 BTUs, which 18,000 is a lot of heat. But you're only talking probably 2 to 3 hours on high, probably 4.5 on medium, but you can get 11 hours on low. So if you're having to stretch out and you don't have enough fuel canisters, you can't run it on low, layer up your clothes, and you're going to be fine. Then another thing I'd want to strongly suggest that you have ahead of time is your plug-in for your cigarette lighter on your car. If the power's out, the only way you're going to be able to keep your cell phone charged to be able to make emergency calls is to have a cigarette lighter adapter and make sure that your plug will plug into it. That way you can go out to your car, plug your phone in, and charge it up. So that's another thing I'd recommend that you have. So let's see. Another item. If there's no power, battery powered radios. Now you can go with a hand crank system if you can afford to buy one. But if you don't, battery powered radio, so you could keep up on the weather alerts that's going on and know what's going on in your area. So this is going to be key to have right there. And let's see. Then you're going to want to address light. Now, you can have your tactical flashlights, but I like the little lantern flashlights. These throw a lot of light, talking $13 on something like this. It runs off of 3 AA batteries. Very handy item to have. To say that your budget's too tight, you can't afford $13. Okay, can you afford candles? They have survival candles in a can. has 3 wicks. Individually, you can get 36 hours out of this. But if you fire them all up at the same time so you can get a little extra heat, then you're talking about 12 hours. UCO makes a pack, 3 candles in here made of beeswax. It burns clean. It's not going to put soot or smoke on your ceiling. These burn real clean. When it's done, you have maybe a $50 size worth of leftover wax. Each one of these candles in here, and you got 3 of them, they will burn for 9 hours. So that's 27 hours. So you're talking at least 3 nights that you can have something lit. Or you can have these lit around the room, and that will also add extra heat into the room. Now, again, if they fall over something, could catch fire. Again, is why you have one of these handy. Now, I myself, I also stock up tea light candles, the little muffin pans that you have around your house. You can put these in. 8 of these, 8 to 10 of these can give off enough heat to boil water, 1 cup of water in a pan. You can boil water, you can cook rice, or you can make spaghetti or something basic. Or you can use these for light and heat. You can fill up a muffin pan, 1 in each one. These burn for 4 hours. Now, for the first 30 minutes, they're super bright. Then they dim down, and then they come back. But you'll get 4 hours out of each one of these. Now, one year Christmas time, I gave these as extra Christmas presents. Everybody thought I was nuts. All it is a ball canning quart jar. What it has in it is a thing of wooden stick matches and a lighter. Why do I have 2 lighting sources in it? Because the lighter can expire. It can evaporate all the gas in it. So if I go to use it and it doesn't light, this is the backup. 2 is 1, 1 is none. If these are wet and not running, then the lighter backs up the wooden matches. So I have 2 sources in here. You take the lid off. What I did was I took a piece of PVC pipe fitting, I hot glued it to the lid. I have a little bit of aluminum foil in there that I will line and put around that PVC pipe. And that lid becomes a candle holder for the candle. And as you can see, got about 9 or 10 candles down in there. Now let's say you say, oh, that's too complicated, Mr. Aaron, I can't do that. That's just too much for me. Okay, buy you some candles. It's not going to cost you nothing. I would cut them down to probably 6 inches. Get your metal foil pan. Get a few thumbtacks. The bottom of the metal foil pan. Push the thumbtacks through. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to sit this on the table, and then after you stick it through, take your candles and push down on the thumbtacks. And as you can see, you have an improvised candle holder. The foil will hold the heat. You have a way of creating extra heat in the house. You got a few of these set up. You can have 6 or 8 candles in here. But you have an improvised candle holder. It don't have to be complicated. to die, it's a useless death. Okay. Now, let me make sure I've got everything covered in that area. But those are just a few basics. The more, the better. The more stuff you have, the more gear you have on hand, because you're going to have the ability to cook. A good camping stove, again, propane is what I strongly recommend. And there's other things too. But to understand how to layer your clothing up, the right type of clothing to have, how to set up a warm room in your house. And if you can't do that, just moving your couches and love seat back to back and creating a fort that you can get up underneath and stay warm. And you can create them improvised candles to help generate extra heat in the room. You have plastic sheeting to hang up on the windows, around your door, up up in the doorway to hold the heat into that room. That's the whole thing you want to do. Because remember, 3.6 degree temperature change, you're going to die. Now, let's say that you say to yourself, I can't live in the house. The house is just too cold. I don't have the resources here. Okay, you can go out into your garage, get into your car, back your car out of the garage. And there's people on YouTube that have videos all the time of them surviving in their vehicles. I mean, they literally live in their vehicles, but you have to have the right gear and equipment. And again, layering up your clothing is going to be key. Now, let's say that you say, well, I don't have the money to go to a motel or whatever, and this wind is just killing me and I can't just sit still. Okay, right now, what you need to learn is what stores in your area stay open 24 hours. Walmart would be a good example. Okay, you can pull up into a Walmart parking lot in your car. You can sit there and run your engine and stay warm. Or if you got one of the buddy heaters with you, I'm telling you on low, it'll run you out of a car. But you can turn it on and off, and you can crack your windows. But when you get restless, get up, go inside the store, walk around, loosen up. You can go into the bathroom and use their bathrooms. And if you want to buy some snacks or whatever, you have that option. But you can survive and thrive in a situation like that. There's no excuse to die for lack of money or lack of knowledge. Now, a couple other things I'd like to recommend. If you're going to survive in your car, again, CO2 detector. Again, these are your safety items. You cannot do without them. Now, you can set up that improvised candle thing. You could be running 4 or 5 candles in your car. It will keep you warm. Now, you're not going to be sweating or anything like that, but it will keep you from getting frostbite or freezing to death in your vehicle. Another thing that you'd want to have handy. This is an emergency blanket. This is the thick one. These are the little silver aluminum blankets. Let's say that your clothing, you don't have, because of fashion, you don't have a snowsuit or a big winter Parker coat or something like that to put on, and you just got what you got with you. You can wrap one of these around your body and take that duct tape or Gorilla tape and tape it and make like a little poncho to hang over to tape it, and then a few things on the side to hold it in place. These things reflect your body temperature back at you. So they're going to keep you warm if you're in a vehicle or inside your house. Again, you're going to need a good set of gloves, and I recommend some sort of good water resistant boot, not no fashion shoes. I just had 2 of my nephews recently that came around me to help me move. They had on these gym shoes that had all these slits in them. I'm looking at their bare feet. There's snow on the ground. And even my brother said, hey, you guys ain't got on the right kind of shoes. And they're like, oh, we be okay. You couldn't survive long. As soon as your feet become frostbite, you're done. You've lost all mobility. You're not going nowhere else. If they got stuck out in the weather like that, and that was the shoe that they chose to bug out with, they wouldn't last 2 or 3 hours. They're done. I mean, I get tired of seeing fashion replacing common sense. Now, another thing that you can have if you're surviving in your car, you can buy them now. You can get you a box, what they call hand warmers. You got your clothing on, work them up, put them down inside your suit. It's going to generate extra body heat for you. You put them down in your pants or whatever, but just have a layer of insulation between them and your body so you don't get burnt or anything by them. But they get pretty warm, and it'll be a way of generating extra heat without doing something foolish that could get you killed. You're going to want to have extra blankets. If you decide to survive in your car, you want to take some blankets with you from off your bed. Again, having cell phone adapter to keep your phone running so that you can communicate. Vital. Can't leave that out. Then I say also blankets like hand warmers. Just again, knowing right now and learning what stores stay open 24 hours so that you have somewhere to go. I mean, you could probably get away with going into a motel parking lot, but a lot of times their security won't let you stay if they think you're out there camping out and you're being too stingy to rent a room. They probably will ask you to leave. But 24-hour store, they're not going to bother you, and you'll be fine. I don't think, is there anything else? Also for your flashlight, your batteries. I mean, your flashlights, radios, whatever. You're going to want to have batteries. This is a battery daddy. I call them battery caddies because it carries all sorts of batteries. They run you about $15 at Home Depot. And it's just a matter of over time buying batteries and filling them up so that you can supply your power needs in the event of an emergency. Because if the power's down, the stores aren't going to be open. So this last minute concept of I'm going to run to the store and get everything I need, you're going to find locked doors. And there's not going to be nothing there for you to get. So I just want to mention that right now that I'm tired of hearing that people are dying out here. I want to save as many lives as I can. I feel that I'm doing this to put this information out. I hope people learned something. If nothing else, at least picked up one thing that you could use. And I'm going to stop there, Steve. If you and Sanford want to jump in on that, be my guest.
Yeah, I think that was excellent. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that. And I guess if we can ask you some questions, if that's all right.
Okay, go ahead, my man.
All right then. So, and I definitely can you go a little bit more into that micro environment? I think that that's really something that's interesting that people may have never heard of that term. What can you go a little bit more of what is a
Sure.
micro environment and where should the micro environment be in the home?
Well, it depends upon where you're most comfortable. I mean, I have a wood burning fireplace. I can set up a micro environment right there in my living room. I can hang the plastic sheetings down. I can put plastic sheeting over my windows and I can light that fireplace up and I'm toasty warm and everything's being kept there. I have a bed, a couch becomes a bed. If nothing else, I can take my exercise mats in, lay them on the ground and make a bed on the ground if I have to. Uh, it's an environment that you're going to survive in. I can turn on my little lamps and I can read books or I can play games or I can get on my phone and play games, anything to pass the time. But you're basically setting up a room that you're going to survive in and make it through the disaster. And the more elements it has to make, or more creature comforts to make it comfortable to you, the better. And
Right.
you may have your whole family might have to survive out of that room. I mean, for your kids, you can turn it into a game. You can say, well, hey, we're going to camp out in the living room today. Let's everybody get together and we're going to go in here and hang up a bunch of stuff and turn it into a game for them. They won't even realize that they're being educated and you're showing them how to do it. Let's build a fort out of the two couches, turn them back to back, and the kids can sleep up under that. You and your wife can sleep on the love seat and the couch or whatever. But if you got your big buddy heater set up, you got it on the medium setting, or even the low setting, because on low, you're going to get 11 hours out of those two tanks. And that's great. And there another thing I want to mention about the big buddy, you can buy an attachment for it that if you screw it in, you don't need the little small tanks. You can get one of those 20-pound propane tanks that goes to a gas grill, and it'll run almost the entire week on
Yeah.
on that on a 20-pound gas grill. So
Those
with that
buddy heaters
attachment,
are excellent. I remember when they
yeah.
came out and I heard that you can burn them inside without having the window open, which is very good because that's one of the things that we hear about every winter, unfortunately, is that people are succumb by the fumes from generators that they have sometimes in their garage, and they don't realize that those fumes creep right back into the house, and next thing you know, they're not waking up the next morning. So that Mr. Buddy heater, that was one of the best things that come out in a long time, especially for winter survival or winter prepping. Um, and
I
going
I
into the
go ahead.
generators, and can you talk about what type of generator would be best for a micro environment, or just to be prepared for the polar vortex?
Well, I have, again, two is one is none. I have both a dual fuel generator that runs off of gasoline and propane, and I also have a solar generator that I stick up my solar panels, and they're generating power for my generator, and then I'm running appliances or whatever I want. I could even run my TV and a game system on that generator. But again, people don't have that kind of money, or they haven't got out in front of this and acquired this stuff ahead of time. Slowly, each month, plan to buy at least one item. And if you can do that at the end of 6 or 8 months, it really adds up. But if you think you're going to go out the last minute and buy a bunch of things, that's not going to happen. Now,
Mm.
going back to the big buddy heaters, I've got a lot of friends that, and I've done it before too, cold weather camping, and we camp in our vehicles or whatever. And those big buddy heaters do the job. I've got friends with RVs, and that's what they use in their RVs to keep the RVs warm, is the big buddy heaters. So I recommend them, but I'm not going to tell someone that you have to go out and get them. That's just more or less coaching people, because I want to make sure that people don't die a useless death.
Right,
And to freeze to death in your own home, man, I'm just amazed that that could even happen. But
right,
I have to realize that everyone has not received the same training that I have. So today's show, I wanted to share some knowledge, just some basic facts. I mean, we're not getting into the extraordinary stuff, just mere basics, bread and butter here. And if they can do these things and get these things ahead of time, people freezing death in their own homes shouldn't happen no more. I mean, when
right.
a polar vortex
Absolutely.
comes, it's only going to last a week or two, and then it's gone. And if you're without power and you're without heat, man, if you can't make it a week, man, I don't know what to say.
Right. And people shouldn't think that, their power is going to be on during a polar vortex, because you may have a situation to where the day before either you have a lot of snow, which can bring down power lines, or you may even have rain that freezes on power lines and brings those power lines down. And so the thing about the American infrastructure is that it's very, and I did a program on the American infrastructure that is very antiquated. I mean, one of the things the that they made a mistake when they shut down the TikTok is that when a lot of people went over to, I think it was Red something, it was a Chinese app, and they went on there and they saw a lot of what was going on in China with the bullet trains and just the infrastructure. And America seems to not want to spend money on infrastructure to where you have bridges falling down, You have these trains coming off the tracks, and that just happened down the road from where I'm at in Palestine. And so you have so many things, but this is one of the reasons why it's so important to be prepared, especially in the winter, with this micro environment. That's a very good suggestion.
And let me add one more thing to microenvironment. And I forget to say this a lot of times. Uh, I was always big into working out while you're surviving in your microenvironment. Do some jumping jacks. Get your body moving, because when your body's moving, it's generating heat. And even when you're in your car, you get bunched up after a while. Your joints start getting kind of achy because you're sitting in the same place. That's when you get out and walk inside and just walk through the store and just let your body loosen up, get that exercise. And as you move, your body's going to generate heat. So exercise is important. I mean, you can play a game with the kids. Hey, let's do some jumping jacks. Let's do some squat thrusts or whatever, and just get everybody moving around. And then they can stop for a minute and relax. But if everybody starts getting cold, get up and start moving around again and get your body generating some heat. But also have
Right.
you some energy bars or something on hand that if you can't cook, you can eat cold. Something that, I mean, like MREs or something that don't have to be cooked, and
Mhm.
you can eat them cold if you had to keep fueling your body, because you got to keep that temperature. That 98.6 is important. When you hit 95 or start to go below 95, you're getting ready to die.
Right.
I'll stop
And I
there,
just
Steve.
wanted No, that's good because I just wanted to say, in that micro environment, if that if the room doesn't maybe have a couch or something in it, one of the things you can purchase is like an inflatable bed. But what you definitely want to do is you definitely don't want to lay on the floor. Because that will siphon the heat from your body. And so you want to have a barrier between you and the ground. If you look at a lot of homeless people, they never are sleeping on the ground. They have something as a barrier
Right.
between them and the ground. And one other thing too is that if you can pick a room, try to pick one where you have a window. Now you do want to, insulate that window. You do want to cover that window up, but when it gets to a certain point of day, draw that cover back and get that sunlight because it's very important for our mental health for us to be able to get some sun in these type of situations because a lot of people suffer from what they call is a SAD, SADD, which is I think is seasonal immune deficiency disease, something like that. But it's a real thing. And we definitely need that sunlight because a lot of our vitamins and minerals and mental health comes from directly from that sun. So yeah, thank you, brother Aaron. Brother Sanford, did you want to chime in before we hit some of these current events?
One thing I wanted to say was I know that in this state there were two deaths I heard about where people died in their own properties outside. So one
Mm.
lady went to take her dog outside, and they don't know if she had a medical thing, and she was in her pajamas, and she ended
Wow.
up freezing to death in her own backyard because she wasn't
Mm.
able to get back in the house. Another
Oh
one was a
wow.
gentleman who locked himself out of the house in an attempt to get back in his house. He ended up hurting himself and couldn't nobody hear him, and he froze to death during the night. So,
Mm.
when you exit your house, I mean, something as simple as leaving your house. And what's amazing, one of them the lady went to go walk her dog in the backyard. So the dog used the restroom. The man, I don't know what his purpose was for going out, but he did lock himself out. So,
Mm.
you know, people laugh at me all the time, but every time I leave the house, I got two sets of keys to my car. And each set of
Mm.
keys in my car has a set of keys in my house and some other things. So as simple as going outside, because you can lock a door, something can happen, you know, take your cell phone with you when you go outside. If you feel like you have to go outside in this kind of weather, have an extra
Mhm.
key or something if you have to go outside in this kind of weather. Because that lady who laid out there on her back patio and froze to death because she couldn't get in contact with anybody. I mean, that's a horrific death, man. So
That
I'm
sure
saying,
is.
so sometimes when we think something is extreme, I have to tell my wife and my daughter and other ladies, you know, even this is not even if it's really cold. I said, why not take the big coat? You you don't have to take it inside if you don't want to, but why not have it in your car with you?
Hmm.
Simple things. You know.
Yeah.
So my wife has got to the point now where she has kind of changed that and made it a thing. But we might leave the house and it might say it's 40, but coming home it might be 18. So what's it gonna
Mhm.
hurt to take the coat and put into the back seat of the car?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
I yeah.
simple things, man. I mean, and so every time I leave, it's funny. I'm serious. When I even walked in my garage and I got it's connected to my house, I put my key in my pocket because it'd be my luck. I go out there and something happened in the door lock. Now I can't get back in the house.
Right.
Yeah. So and then I couldn't even use my car if I couldn't get the key to get in it.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, we need to think. I think sometime on a very fundamental level for everything. And preparedness goes into everything. Something as simple as having a set of keys, an extra set of keys. But I always have two
Right.
set of keys when I leave the house.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
very good. That's real good. And like you said, sometimes we just don't think that something, we just don't prepare. We don't think that something could happen when we walk out that door and we jump in that car and we go from point A to point B. We just think that it's a simple A to B trip. But I recently was on the highway and the highways are always congested. There's always a car on the side of the highway where they hit some type of object, they got a flat, or something is going on with the engine. You just never know. And if the temperatures are below zero or around zero or under 32 degrees, then you're in a world of hurt if you just went out your house thinking that you was going to go to A to B and you don't have any coat, you just have on, something that you would run in and run out and come back home. So it's definitely good to be prepared. I want to ask either of you the type of materials that we should wear. So, for instance, should we have on cotton or wool, or what is the best materials to have when we go out?
Well, your first layer is going to be something thermal or like some long johns or something. Your second layer is going to be nylon, polyester, or wool because you want something that's going to wisp the moisture off your body so you don't end up getting frostbite. And then your third layer is going to be something that can shed the wind off of you. That's the reason why a snowmobile suit that I've got is made of nylon, because if the wind hits it, it's just going to skirt it all off of me. I mean, you can have on a big wool coat or something if you want to, but you're going to lose a little bit of mobility and agility. I like to still be able to move a little bit in the event that I have to. So I like the nylon exterior, but it's quilted, and then you got all this insulation inside. I mean, that thing is set for 25 below zero, and that's by itself. I mean, if you want to put on a coat underneath it, I mean, layering up your clothing is going to be key to surviving. So many people just put on basic stuff. I mean, in my area, the superintendent, Doctor, I can't remember his name, he shut down the schools for 2 or 3 days during the polar vortex because he couldn't have the school children standing at the bus stops with just
Right.
hoodies on. And I'm like, my God, I mean, kids can't go to school to be educated because the parents won't dress them. And the kids,
Mhm.
if the parents want to dress them, won't wear the stuff properly because they're worried of looking different. How about staying warm? How do you know that the bus ain't going to break down and you're going to have to walk? I mean, come on. But people don't want to respond. I mean, this day and time, the majority of people have the attitude, I cross that bridge when I get there. Getting out in front of something, what if I don't want to spend my money on that right now? I'm trying to live my best life. That
Right.
just don't make sense to me. Uh, uh, why would I buy that stuff if I never have to use it? Well,
Mhm.
why do you buy insurance for your car? Why do you buy insurance for your house? You may never have to use it, but in the odd chance you do, you got it. And that gives you peace of mind. But
Peace
I'll
of
stop
mind.
there.
Yeah, that's what we want, especially in this day and time, is a peace of mind. And so let's go ahead and get into some of these current events. Um, Brother Sanford, would you like to start us off with the current events? What's going on in the world?
Man, there's so much happening today. I tell them, get ready, get ready, get ready.
Get ready.
I'm gonna take one step back real quick. Aaron talked about, going to stores and stuff that may be open 24 hours. I just want to remind the community, don't forget about your local public servants, because fire departments and police departments can notify you where they have heating stations or warming stations where people can go, just in
Mm,
case you can't survive somewhere else. So don't forget, you got resources a lot of times that are available to you that you have to use too. I just wanted to throw that out there. Um,
right.
so let's talk about man, there's so many things.
Mm,
Ooh wee. Um, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened in New York this past week. A week long
okay.
training they had in New York.
Mm,
Okay. So in New York this past week, they had and let me say this, I'm former law enforcement and I'm former corrections, and I did some stuff for some private companies and stuff some years ago. And so I was a part of some agencies that did multi-state, multi-agency trainings for what we would call not natural disasters, but emergency crisis, medical crisis that might happen. Some stuff involved if you had riots or if you had some kind of small warfare in cities, and the exercises would last 2 and 3 days. So what they did in New York involved a nuclear crisis. Um, I thought it was interesting that it lasted a whole week, which lets me know it was a large scale. I know that it was based out of Albany. They used the airport in that area because a lot of times you'll find a ground that you can do that on. And I think people need to pay attention that this is happening on a regular basis, and it's happening in some
mm,
of the larger cities. So a lot of times when I were involved in them, they might be in smaller communities. So we had things in like Moundsville, which is like right at the West Virginia Ohio border, up in Mansfield, uh, and I mean, we propelled out of helicopters. We did attacks on buses just in case it was some hostage situations and stuff. But I think I did a little research and I found out they've been doing them on this massive scale since 2012.
mm,
Main reason they decided to do this particular one located where it was because of some action that's happening off the coast of Beijing.
mm,
So they are really, it's a real precursor to let you know that something is has intensified and is heating up on the coastal area, and that can involve some embargoes and stopping some transportation of goods and everything. So I think I don't think this. First of all, I don't think many people know this happened.
right.
We're aware of it, but I don't think I've mentioned it to several people just in passing, and they looked at me like I didn't hear anything about that, or why are they doing that? And so, I don't think people know that this is happening on a regular basis, and we are preparing for something much larger than we've experienced in most of our lifetimes.
Right.
So, with that being said, I think it's time for people, like Aaron said, to get out ahead of it. Read up on this thing, do some research, because it's all the
Mm,
information is there. They're not hiding it at all, and
right.
the reason they're not hiding it because when it falls, they can say, "Well, we told you we were doing it."
Mm,
We told you we were doing it now, so now we can't be there to save you. I found out that some of the drone things help perpetuate it. and it was done by the Department of Defense. I know for sure the FBI. I know for sure um, a couple other agencies, and I think people just need to start researching and paying attention to these things that they don't think exist, or when they hear about it, or just generally search and ask a question. You know,
Right.
what kind of preparedness are we doing for nuclear attacks? What kind of preparedness are we doing for attack on our our power grid? I think we need to
Hmm.
start asking these questions just in general because it's happening. And like I said, they had an 8-day exercise. So if it was 8 days, I'm gonna tell you something, brother. That lets me know that was
Right.
a large scale. The media was not able to
Ultimate Soldier,
attend any of the sessions,
most
any of them.
intense, genius, and downright astonishing
Oh,
training
sorry about that.
Oh
conceive.
no,
Go
These
no.
ahead.
grueling regimens.
So I
There we
just I
go.
just think we better wake up. We better get prepared ourselves, and we need to really start. You know, I think you should look at the news and not believe all the news, but you need to look at the news and see what they're putting out there, and then research it for yourself
Right.
because they're getting ready. So that's one
Woo,
thing
they're getting ready.
they're getting ready, buddy, and that's one thing I want to put out here today and expose and just make people aware about. I know me and Aaron, we've talked about this prior to this. I don't know what Brother Aaron thinks about what happened in New York this past week, but I like I said, as being somebody who's been a part of these on not such a large scale, but they've last 2 and 3 days, the ones I were involved in, and they were pretty intense. So I know this had to be like this was the real deal. They really prepared a certain amount of people for something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, like what you're saying, when we look at some of these, this footage and everything, is they're absolutely getting ready. And I heard, if I can remember, I can't remember right now, but it was something to where they were getting ready for just civil possibility of civil unrest. So I think what you're saying is absolutely right on point. Is that we need to definitely be paying attention to the news every day. I know the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us to pay attention to the news so that we know what time we're in, because we definitely need to know and understand the time that we're in and what needs to be done. As Aaron was saying, I had a meeting right before I came here, which is what made me a little behind schedule. But one of the things that we were talking about is, and I don't like sports, don't get me wrong. However, a lot of people, they say, I don't like the news. I don't watch the news. And I'm thinking to myself, with so much going on, anything can break out at any time. And so you definitely need to be paying attention to the news and finding out what's going on. I won't tell you to watch, one side or another. I'll just say, you know, watch the news and really, if you can, look for some alternative sources to what you might be used to, just so you can have a balanced understanding of what's going on. um
Well, one things we
all
have to
right.
do though, when it comes to news though, just remember it's information. So
Mm-hmm.
what we tend to do, especially since social media is so influential now, we take the news verbatim. That's why I
Right.
said, as you look at the news, do some research. We got these idiot boxes in our hand every day, and so they provide you with other resources. So when you hear something from the news, just don't take it verbatim. We take everything so just as is. And like you said, it could be coming from one side or another. And then you don't get the whole story, or you don't read the true story.
Right.
I think I might have said this one time before. One of my old neighbors was a TV personality of a local news station here in the area, and she was very well known. And she
Mm.
asked me a question about something I had knowledge of that involved a crime that happened. And she said, "You know what, Sam?" She said, "I'm really glad you didn't say anything." She said, "Because all we have to do is say sources said. It doesn't have to be correct. All I have to be able to say is sources said.
Mm.
So as long as they can say sources say, they can put out anything to have the story out first, just to put it out there, and it doesn't have to be correct without any repercussions or anything.
Wow.
So
That's
keep that
crazy
in
right
mind.
there.
Yeah, keep that in mind. But I'm saying when we hear something, you know, research it yourself and try to find a complete story. But stereotypes and all those things happen for a reason. So if you hear a little bit something, it's something to it.
Absolutely. I guess I'll go ahead and kick off the next one. And this one you all might have heard of is mice with two male parents. I don't know if you all heard that the Chinese, and I'll just go ahead and read some of this article of what it says. It says scientists in China have recently used genetic engineering techniques to successfully create mice with two male parents. I'm gonna put a little graph up here. It says, meaning that the offspring developed from the sperm of two male mice, marking a significant advancement in mammalian genetic engineering. These mice were able to live to adulthood, although with notable developmental abnormalities. It says key points was that the researchers manipulated embryonic stem cells to modify specific genes involved in reproduction, allowing them to generate functional eggs from male mice. Traditionally, mammalian reproduction requires both male and female genetic material due to a process called genomic imprinting, where certain genes are expressed differently depending on which parent they come from. And the significance of this research could provide insight into the mechanism of genomic imprinting and potentially lead to advancement of stem cell research and understanding of congenital diseases. So that's a pretty heavy report right there because there's so much, that I get from it. And number one is once again, I just call it mad scientist. I just call it mad science if you really want to know the truth. I mean, because number one, we really don't know the mathematics and the science that God has put into the meeting of the male and the female. There's a reason why he made a male and he made a female. And I don't believe that you can take two men, and they already stated in this report that there were developmental abnormalities, like they were saying that the mice's tongue was too big for the mouse's mouth, and other type of issues, and that the mice didn't live as long, of course, as a normal mice would live. One of the things too that they wanted to point out as far as some of the things that they could do with this research, right, was that they could help out same sex couples have children. So this once again is going down a slippery road. I think that uh, it's just madness. If you really want to know, and I don't know if you all probably know that they also have developed what you might call is an artificial womb, where they can have babies outside of the womb. So I think all of these things, could be helpful to certain couples, but I think that if they're doing these things for any other reason uh, other than how God intended it to be, that it's definitely going down a slippery slope, and that we could be looking at some of these movies where you see just people taking parts from other people and just madness just going on. But this looks like the dystopic type of future that could be had if we keep going down roads like this. But what are you all's thoughts on mice with two male parents.
I'm going to use two words you just used to describe the people who did it. Developmental abnormalities. That's all I'm gonna say. Hey, let me do three other words and they can forgive me. Crazy as hell. Now we can go here, brother Aaron.
I
Right.
got nothing to say, man. I'm not down with that stuff, but I got nothing to say.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild right there. Um, I'll go ahead and tackle one more and then let you all go with some current events. The Doomsday Clock. It says the most recent update regarding the Doomsday Clock was made on January the 28th of this year when it was set to 89 seconds to midnight, marking the closest point it has ever been to a potential global catastrophe. The adjustments reflect an alarming assessment of the bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board, the SASB, which cited several critical factors contributing to this highlighted state of danger. Factor number one was nuclear risk. Factor number two is climate change. Factor number three was biological threats. And factor number four was disruptive technology. It says the decision to move the clock 1 second closer, and I'll show I'm gonna play this clip from the one of the scientists of why they did this. It says the decision to move the clock 1 sec closer to midnight serves as a stark warning that every moment without decisive action increases the likelihood of catastrophic outcomes for humanity. So let me go ahead and play this clip of the representative.
It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. It is now 89 seconds to midnight.
All right. Once again, he said that was reflecting an urgent call for global leaders to take immediate action against nuclear threats, climate change, biological risk, and disruptive technology. And I think that one of the disruptive technologies that we experienced just this past week was DeepSeek. I think that's the name of the AI model that came out and totally sent the stocks for some of these tech companies into the basement because they said that the Chinese had developed this deep sink with millions of dollars less money, and with a smaller workforce that they developed this deep sink. So, yeah, it's this technology is the key for any superpower to remain a superpower going into the future. And so, yeah, that was pretty heavy. So, if you all want to say anything about that
Yeah.
doomsday clock, I'll go ahead and let you all go into your current events, and I'll just chime
Well,
in.
going to what you said about the doomsday clock, I personally believe something bad is coming. Right now, it's just a matter of when it's going to occur and how bad it's going to be when it happens. And I want everybody to know out there, the worse it is when it happens, the less likely someone's coming to rescue you. I mean, to me, it's when they did the nuclear incident training exercise in New York this week. And to me, it was no coincidence that it happened right after the drones was circling around and was searching for something. I believe somebody then got their hands on a backpack nuke or a suitcase nuke, because they were searching key bases in the United States. They were searching key cities, even overseas. They were searching areas. They was looking for something, and it had to be something bad for them to have those drones out searching. And then they're going to have a nuclear incident training exercise. Now, do they have them across the United States? Yes, they've been doing them since 2012. However, when they said that we do this all the time in New York City, that was some BS. This is the first time that they've done that up there. And they had National Guard, they had Department of Defense, they had FBI, they had Homeland Security, they had Department of Energy, and then some of the local groups they had was police, fire, and then emergency management agencies involved. And with National Guard, they had military as well as military aircraft involved in that exercise. And they're going to do it right after those drones couldn't find whatever it was they were looking for. I don't think that was no accident. And as far as I know, and I could be wrong, if I believe right, population wise and target wise, as far as a civilian city, I believe New York's in the top 5. So, you know, they're not, if there was a backpack nuke or suitcase nuke loose and they thought it was in New York, they would never announce that.
Right.
With
Right.
with
You
with
make up a good point
ISIS,
about.
yeah,
Hmm.
they would never announce that. So, and that's what we all need to understand. When something gets ready to happen, I don't think they're going to tell us. They don't want the panic to ensue, and we're just going to have to be to deal with it. And those of us that are prepared are going to make it a lot better than those who get blindsided and then they're running around scrambling for resources and wanting help when help's not coming. I mean, even the hospitals, if that power grid goes down, they're going to be back doing third world medicine unless the government
Hmm.
can get diesel fuel to them on a regular basis. On top of the hospital buildings, there's generators up there that runs on diesel. So if they can keep them supplied with fuel, they might be able to generators might be able to keep the hospitals up and running. Otherwise, it's going to be third world medicine. So people need to
Absolutely.
understand the more you can stock now, the better you're going to be and the better your family's going to be. Because help's not coming.
And like you said, stock up. One of the things that people should look into is the iodine pills. That, if they have this radiation, that would at least protect their thyroid gland. And just to read a little bit of that doomsday clock, one of the things that it talked about that we're just discussing is the nuclear risk. And it says the ongoing war in Ukraine has raised significant concerns about nuclear conflict, with fears that miscalculations or rash decisions could lead to nuclear escalation. Additionally, tensions in the Middle East pose risk of wider conflicts that could also involve nuclear powers. Countries with nuclear arsenals are reportedly increasing their stockpiles and investing heavily in new weapon systems, undermining uh, uh, un, undermining arms control efforts. So yeah, that's definitely something that we should definitely look into. And they never associated those drones and the missing. What would you say was a missing nuclear some type of radiation or something like that they were looking for, but they never put those two together because I think, like you said, they didn't want a panic to start in those areas. So that's very interesting. Um, let's go ahead and go into your next current event that you all would like to talk about.
Well, you want to talk about the bird flu?
Stay on that one. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I saw recently that the great state of Ohio, I'm reading it right now, as of January 28th, 2025, Ohio had the highest number of bird flu cases in the United States.
Ain't that something? Right. And one of the things too that they're talking about is I got it coming up now. Um, Let me see here. They talked about the recent death, first death from bird flu. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Let's see here. So I got it under.
Well, you,
Here we go. And I'm gonna pull this up. Wow, this is crazy. So I'm looking
One of
at
you
it.
guys
This
got a
thing is
page
crazy.
open. I can hear feedback from you, brother Steve.
What's that now?
I can hear some feedback, like we got another page open or something.
Oh, okay. All right then. I'll try to figure out what that is. Maybe I'm too close to this. Um, so hopefully, okay, let me go ahead and get into this real quick. It says bird flu detected in commercial poultry flock in Georgia officials. It says bird flu was detected in a commercial poultry flock in Georgia. And I'm gonna put this graph up so we can see what that might look like. So it was detected in a flock in Georgia for the first time since the current outbreak started in 2022, officials announced Friday. It says positive case of the H5N1 strain of highly pathogenic avian influenza was found in Ebert, Elbert County. It was confirmed by the Georgia Department of Agriculture and the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. This marks the fifth detection of the virus in a flock in the state, but was the first one in a commercial poultry operation. Last week, officials announced that the virus was found in a flock of 13 chickens and ducks in Clayton County. I'll just stop right there. But, you know, one of the things that they're talking about is having to cull all these chickens, but they not only have to kill the chickens, but they also have to get rid of the eggs that the chickens lay, and this is causing egg prices to start to skyrocket in the grocery market. So these things that are taking place uh, in the world today, you never know how one thing will affect something else. So this is what we're seeing with this bird flu. And then, Brother Aaron, you talked about the H5N1. We started off with H1N1. Now we're H5N1. Can you explain that again?
Your sound is off, Aaron.
Yeah, you got it muted. Okay.
okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The H1N1, that's your basic bird flu and influenza virus that's out there. Now, it in itself can kill people, but the higher that number goes up, the more deadlier it becomes. H5N1 would be more of a 30 to 38% death rate if it jumps to human beings. I mean, keep in mind, COVID was 4%, and at 4%, millions around the world died. You let
Mm.
something like H5N1 get loose in the human population, not only is it going to kill people, and I'm talking 30 to probably 38% of the population could end up dying from it, but it's also going to kill animals too. It'll be one of the earlier diseases that will kill both humans as well as our food supply. I mean, in our area, Dark County, which is Greenville, Ohio, they had to call, I believe it was close to 2 million chickens up there because
Mhm.
some of them tested positive for the H5N1 virus. So, I mean, you're looking at chicken prices going up, you're looking at egg prices going up, but you know what they got for you? They got this lab grown meat that they're willing to give you. So if they kill off the damn bird population or kill off the bee population, they're already to give you this fake stuff. So it makes you wonder, are they killing off these animals to force you to eat this lab grown meat? Or what's the end game here, you know? Or is the world population becoming so big that they have no other choice but to come up with genetically modified food? Because it takes time to grow livestock. It don't take that much time to grow meat in a lab. So it's hard to say what's going on there, but I don't want no part of any of that.
I
So
know that's right.
Well, you know
Give
what?
me that.
Let's have you guys. I was reading the things they say how to protect yourself from this bird flu. So the first one is get the human influenza vaccine. So they want you to get a shot, a
Mm.
jab. The second one is wash your hands off. They say avoid contact with sick, dead, or wild birds or unhealthy livestock. They also say cook eggs, poultry, and meat to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Then they tell you only consume pasteurized dairy products and protect and vaccinate your pets. Now, you know, they say only consume pasteurized dairy products. I don't know if anybody knows what a pasteurized dairy product is. I don't know if people know what that means. But what pasteurized means is when they have, let's say, the milk, and the milk, when it comes from the animal, the milk has to be heated to a certain temperature to kill the bacteria. And I know that temperature is over 160 degrees. I don't know the exact temperature, but I do remember it's over 160 degrees. And they say that only has to happen for like 30 seconds or something. So if the milk that comes from a live animal has to be treated before you can consume it, maybe you're not supposed to be consuming that milk that way. You know, I always had a statement. I used to say, how come we're the only animal that God created that gets milk from another animal? Just think about that.
Mm-hmm.
The only animal
Yeah.
that God created that goes to another animal to consume his milk. And God made a female species to provide a certain amount of milk for our young. So I think part
Mhm.
of what's happening to us, and this is my personal thing here, we're kind of reaping what we sow.
Mhm.
And the words of Aaron, I'm gonna stop right there.
okay, well let me jump in here. I want to go back and keep staying on the bird flu for a minute because I want people to understand the higher those numbers go up behind the H and the N, the more lethal the disease is. It's bad enough H1N1 will kill, but back in 1918 to 1921, we had a disease that went around the world called the Spanish flu. That was H7N9. It killed 50 million people. And I mean, it was moving like a brush fire. I mean, no one could stop it. And it was airborne. I mean, the flu is the flu. Somebody starts coughing or sneezing on you or around you, and you inhale those droplets. Uh, Inside the United States, from what I read, there were many a small town that wiped out entire towns here. And keep in mind that the population back then was very small, and the small towns weren't very big. Everybody knew everybody. But I mean, you would kill three generations of people. It would kill the children, the parents, and the grandparents. It just wiped entire towns out. And luckily, it burned itself out because if people wouldn't have been avoiding contact with each other back then, it would have continued to travel. Because I mean, the flu is the flu, and something that would kill 90% of the people it infects. I don't want no part of nothing like that. But the
Mm.
higher those numbers go up from H1N1 to H7N9, the higher those numbers go up, the more lethal that bird flu disease is. There's somebody, whoever it's a terrorist group, domestic terrorists, anybody that's got a lab jacket on, working out of their garage, if someone tweaks it, changes it, engineers that to be able to jump to humans, we're in trouble. We're looking at the next major pandemic. I mean, at first it'd be an outbreak, then it'd become an epidemic, but as soon as that infects 55 nations, it becomes a pandemic. And you're not going to be able to stop it. They can say we got flu shots for it. They ain't got nothing for that. That's a major killer. So, and it
it'll make
amazes me. It amazes me that all these lab companies came out. They all had all this millions and billions of dollars of shots for the bird flu already stockpiled before the bird flu even made an appearance. And then
mm,
2 or 3 months go by, and then all of a sudden, here it is. And the thing with those shots, they got to use them in a certain amount of time, otherwise stuff goes bad. So it amazed me that that bird flu come out of nowhere when all that stuff had been sitting around for a couple months. And those companies were looking at taking major losses after producing all that and didn't have a damn pandemic don't to put it toward. So
mhm.
is it a coincidence? Maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Who knows?
Yeah. You got to look at that because, like I was saying, there's a lot of people who think that there's a culling not of chickens, but of human beings that are no more needed due to artificial intelligence, robotics, and just technology and period. So you have a number of people who, in the eyes of some of these deranged leaders, are useless feeders. They don't have any more use or purpose for the human beings. And as we know, uh, particularly Western societies love slave labor. But once you have robotics and artificial intelligence, you don't need so much that slave labor. So now they got factories upon factories that are building cars and things like this. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that definitely people should take a look at. And so I found that a report of the guy dying. It says as of January the 6th that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, reported that Louisiana had recorded the first human death from H5N1 avian flu influenza in the United States. The individual who passed away was hospitalized after becoming severely ill following contact with both backyard poultry and wild birds. This person was older than 65 years and had underlying health conditions that may have contributed to the severity of their illness. It says since 2024, there have been a total of 66 confirmed human cases of H5N1 in the US, with the first with this being the first fatality linked to the H5 infection. The CDC noted that while this death is tragic, it is not unexpected, given the known risk associated with H5N1 infection. So, man, that's yeah, that's something else right there. Um, let's go ahead and get into another another current event. And there, like you said, like you all are saying, there are so many. What? Okay, here we go. Um, uh, Staying with the infections, I don't know if you all heard of the deer disease that could be close to making a jump to humans. And I'll read just a little bit of this. This is really crazy. It says, it turns out that deer disease, also called chronic waste disease, may take may make the jump to humans in the near future. That would make hunting season decidedly more complicated. In deer, the disease has a near 100% fatality rate, and there's no signs it wouldn't be the same in humans. The disease causes confusion, drooling, changes in motor and cognitive functions, and eventual death. And truth be told, that sounds like some of the drugs that are on the street right now. I don't know if you all ever seen some, and I'm not, I shouldn't laugh because some of these drugs, some of these, it just comes to mind what this comedian said. You know, comedians, they be telling you the truth, but they make you laugh at it, right? And one of the comedians talked about, you know, the drugs on the street. He said, I think it was Cat Williams, and he said this is called, he said this is called death. You know, they just called it death. And everybody wanted to try it because it's just crazy, you know, when you think about, you know, some of these drugs and how they eat away the body nowadays. These drugs, they, not to talk about fentanyl and them to just straight up kill you, but some of these drugs, maybe death is better than, you know, what some of these people are going through because it's eating their flesh away. And a lady was telling me about it a couple of days ago, and I forget what she was saying, but it's a cycle where they really can't get off the drugs because now the flesh is being eaten away, so they're in pain. So now they're taking another drug that feeds that hunger for. It's just so, yeah. Kids, just don't get on drugs at all.
I got a
So
question, brother. See,
yeah.
because I'm not really aware of the zombie deer disease. Where does it come from, and what actually causes it?
Well, they say you know, that the deers carry this disease. Um, that it is it's a deer disease. Also, it's called chronic wasting disease, and that you know, if you see a deer that is around, let me see what it says. It says the top infectious disease researcher at the University of Minnesota said via Daily Mail, we have some limited data now suggesting that feral pigs might be infected. If they can get infected, surely it's possible domestic swine could also become infected. What would that do to the swine market? What would that do to the cattle market? These are huge issues. And it goes on to say, I think that one thing that we talked about in some last shows, it says that pigs and humans share a lot of DNA. So the fact that it is able to infect pigs is not a promising sign. The guy said. So yeah, that's
Well, I'd like
that.
to add to that. I'm familiar with that disease. If you feed on that deer, that'd be a way of it jumping to humans at that point.
Yeah.
In our area, raccoons and snakes have come down with. I personally saw a raccoon that had it, and you'll know if an animal has it because they're real aggressive. They have no
Mm.
fear of human beings. They start coming at you, and that's how I saw the raccoon. The damn thing started coming at me, and I was looking. I didn't see no foam at the mouth, so I'm like, well, he ain't got no rabies, but you get any closer, I'm gonna have to put an arrow in his ass.
I
It,
know
it
that's
was,
right.
but I'll be honest with you, I had to give it respect because I knew about the disease was in our area, and I kind of ran back from him. Now, ticks, uh, fleas, and mosquitoes that feed on that deer. I'm wondering if they contacted a human, any insect that feeds on blood, if it contacted a human and fed on a human, could there be a transference? And I have never heard an answer to that question yet. And then I
Mm.
will also add that it amazes me that these bad diseases come out of nowhere. Uh, what was it, 10, 12 years ago? It was mad cow disease. and that was
Mhm.
everywhere. Now you don't hear about mad cow. Now we got the wasting away, and it's like the diseases are progressing and becoming worse and worse and worse. And our food supply chain is definitely being impacted by this kind of stuff. And for those people who thought, well, if things get really bad, I'm going to bug out. I'm going out into the woods. I'm going to survive in the woods. Well, you got zombie deer and zombie snakes and zombie raccoons and stuff out there. You ain't gonna be surviving too long. They're taking that
Mhm.
option away from it. I mean,
Mm.
where's this stuff coming from? And you can't tell me it's occurring naturally in nature. Somebody's making this stuff in a damn test tube somewhere, infecting insects with it and releasing them, and then sitting back and measuring how far this stuff spreads after it's released. I mean, they're running tests. And sooner or later, when everything is in place, when all the people they got is trained, something's going to get released and it's going to do a number. I mean, that's the reason why I tell people right now, if you see the government doing operational readiness drills and they're stockpiling stuff and they're getting ready, shouldn't you be doing the same thing? I mean, they're not doing that for
Mhm.
nothing. There has to be a viable threat for them to spend the money to do the training. So if they're doing all that, shouldn't you be doing something? But I'll stop there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Um, I guess a few more events we can go into. You all have anything that you wanted to share as far as current events are concerned? Yeah,
Well,
not.
we could talk about the Washington thing, the airline crash there.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, I've
that's
looked
tragic.
at many, yeah, and they had another act. They had another plane crash today in Philadelphia, not too far from their mall.
Mm,
But it was a much smaller plane that went down. But that plane, that helicopter, from the news stories I saw, if any of them are true, was a Black Hawk, and it was doing a COD drill, which stands for continuity of government. A threat has occurred. You grab the president up, and you're rushing him to the airport, or you're rushing him to the bunker, and they're running a drill. Now, that helicopter's got some sort of radar on it. They should have been able to see the airline coming in. Uh, to me, I've got a lot of questions and I've got no answers. I mean, how could that even happen? And then you've got air traffic controller looking at it. I mean, they're supposed to make them fly at two different levels. Um, I know the COG helicopter would have, if we was pulling up at a stop sign, the COG helicopter would have right away. They don't have to stop, but that jet plane can't stop at a stop sign. It's going to keep on coming. I mean, the forward
mhm.
inertia would carry it forward. It can't stop. So I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing all these conspiracies that they believe there was something on the helicopter that they took it out. Then I'm hearing that maybe there was a dignitary on the plane or somebody of some importance or something or somebody that was on the helicopter. There's a lot of stuff going back and forth on that right now. Uh, that Black Hawk helicopter is highly advanced. The pilot that would fly the president in case of emergency would be highly trained. You can't tell me pilot error in this case. It just doesn't fathom in my mind that somebody trained on his level cannot see a damn jet coming in and not see
Right.
it on
They
their
said
screen or whatever.
Yeah, they
Go
said
ahead.
that the air traffic controller said that they did see the plane. That's what's so odd. It said that
Right.
the helicopter pilot, and they said that the Black Hawk was actually flying at a higher level than it should have been flying, that it should have been underneath the plane going up and around and back of it. So they said that the Black Hawk, because like you said, just like you're driving down the road at night. The plane has lights on it, and they saw the lights. I mean, when I laugh like that, I don't know, it's a nervous laugh or whatever, but it's just like they saw the plane, and so this is just like you said, this is one of those situations that is both tragic and odd because unfortunately, they went into the freezing water and nobody survived. I think that they've got at least 30 bodies out of the 40 something bodies recovered. But yeah, they're looking into those black boxes now to see what possibly could have happened.
And I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell
I
you,
hope
when
it
you get
wasn't a
that,
situation where, sometimes, they tell you not to point lasers at airplanes because when it hits that glass, it blinds the pilots. I'm just speculating, but because I don't know what exactly happened, but yeah, that would be a tragedy for sure.
Well, I
and
want to say first, my prayers go out to all the people that lost somebody in the family. That's horrific. Um, my latest that I heard on it was this though, and I actually heard part of the air traffic controller talking to the Black Hawk pilot, and the air traffic controller was telling the Black Hawk pilot to make a certain degree turn. Well, if you go back and look at the video, the last thing I heard was this, and you can see it on the video. The Black Hawk came upon that particular jet and hit that jet, but it was one ahead of that. And the Black Hawk was mistaking the information to be the one that was ahead of the one that it hit. And that's how it supposedly, it's one of the things they think made the pilot misjudge it because it was an airliner ahead of both of them. And if you look at the video, it shows you it was one ahead of them, and then the one that was in the crash was behind it. And they think that's where the confusion came in. But if you were to listen to the audio I heard, and I mean, he must have said 4 or 5 times the changes direction, turn so many degrees, and the Black Hawk pilot didn't respond. And it was like 5 seconds later, the crash occurred. But when they talked about the plane being ahead of it, you can clearly see it was a plane ahead of both of them, and they believe that's what he actually misjudged, his pattern on. But I do want to say, just to the families, man, that's horrible, man. That's horrible, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
mm,
tragedy for
and
sure.
I like to add something to that. Again, average body temperature 98.6. You go into water that's got ice in it. Let's say that just your lower half of your body's in the water and you're holding on to the edge of a boat or the edge of something, just lower half in. You got 30 minutes in water that temperature before your body temperature drops and you die. I mean, when the people in the Titanic went into that water that had the ice in it, a lot of them was holding on to the sides of lifeboats.
Mm,
After 30 minutes, they were done. I mean, they wasn't going to survive. And I hate to say it like that, but the human body is a frail thing and it does have limits. Uh, a body temperature above 107 is going to kill. Um, 95 or under is going to kill. I mean, you got to live within a certain parameter. And cold water like that just sucks the life right out of your body as far as your body heat, your core temperature drops. Now you're going into
hypothermia.
hypothermia or you're
Mm,
becoming hypothermic and you're getting ready to die. You got 30 minutes or less. If they couldn't rescue them people and get them to help in 30 minutes or less, those people were doomed.
mhm. And there's a report where sometimes they find people who are frozen to death with no clothes on. And one of the things that happens is, believe it or not, that the body begins to in the person's mind. I don't know if it's in their mind or if the body actually heats up or probably doesn't, but I'm not sure. But at least the individual believes that they're hot and they begin to take off their clothes as they're freezing to death. So, this is something that's definitely a tragedy. And once again, like you all are saying, prayers go out to the families of these individuals. So, um, did you all want to talk any on the the deportations that are taking place?
I said I can go so long with that. I was gonna save that to next week. I'm looking
Okay,
to see what's gonna happen this coming week. I
right.
think that can be something that may go a little long.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Let's definitely go ahead and do that. I had some images here that I'm going to just play that I had got ready just in case we did talk about it. Um, and I'll show some of them here, you know. So I just wanted to go into a little bit about what you could say is the cause and effect. And one of the things that I wanted to bring out was that, when we look at America and its foreign policy, the United States plays like a key role in a lot of these immigrants, seeking refuge in the border. Same thing with Europe, with African refugees looking for asylum, because in truth, America and Europe have went into South America, and many can look up what's called the Monroe Doctrine. It's a doctrine in the early 19th century that established U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere, declaring it as their exclusive sphere of influence in setting up the foundation for the future interventions in Latin American affairs. And so there have been a number of coups that have taken place where governments have been overthrown. Same thing like I said, in Africa with Patrice Lumumba and other African leaders, and then setting up puppet regimes that brutalize the people, and the people then have to flee and seek refuge in a safer place. And of course, where are they coming? They're coming to the place where uh, that many would say called some of these regimes to be put in place. So I just wanted to just drop that in because sometimes I think that we can look at things out of context. Now, I'm not saying that we definitely don't need to protect our borders. We absolutely have to do that. But at the same time, I just wanted to humanize, some of these immigrants that are seeking refuge uh, from some of the brutal regimes that have been put in place through CIA coups and things like that. But yeah, definitely want to go into that more next program. A little bit of that history will be good for people because I listen to C-SPAN all the time and they are always like, well, why are they coming here? Well, I think, well, you should actually know why they coming here. Because you have to ask the question, why would a mother take her infant through an experience like that if they were just coming to get a job? So yeah, let's look at it and maybe go into it a little deeper. But with that, if you all didn't have any more, I guess I could talk about one more thing that we talked about in the past show. It says that the sun is going under is undergoing a reversal. It does it every 11 years, which marks an important stage in the solar cycle. It says this shift in polarity marks the point at which the sun is halfway through solar maximus, and we'll talk a little bit about that, the height of its activity and the beginning of the shift towards solar minimum. The sun's magnetic field last flocked towards the end of 2013. What causes this uh, shift in polarity, and and it's dangerous for anything on Earth, or is it dangerous for anything on Earth? It says, let's take a deeper dive. But one of the things that you were talking about, I think last week, Brother Aaron, was the Carrington event. And they are talking about how, um, even in this modern day age, that there's still a threat, and that if it's strong enough, we could be living back in the Stone Ages. Um, so I just wanted to drop that in because that's serious right there, and a lot of people don't think about, anything threatening us coming from space, except for maybe like an asteroid, something like that, which that's a subject too that we can talk about. But I guess with that, we'll go ahead and close on out unless you all have anything more that you want to drop in there.
No, next week I'll be fired up for the immigration and the deportation. You better put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, put your seatbelt on, because we'll have a lot of different perspectives on this whole thing. So I think it's going to be a good program. So with that, I'll go ahead and close this on out. And let me see here. Let me go ahead and put me up here. All right. And thank you all for tuning in once again. We love for you to subscribe to the channel, to follow, to hit that notification bell so that you know when we have these programs coming on. And we have some different programs that we're looking at putting together that will help you to get your disaster preparedness kits together, survival kits, and things like that. So, with that, may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. And I will leave you in peace. Oh.